All right. Welcome back to the Stronghold Podcast, where we explore capability and truth. I'm your host, Dave Barton, and my guest today is Jay Downing. Welcome to the Stronghold, Jay.
Thanks, Dave. Happy to be here. It's an honor and a privilege, man.
Likewise. I'm glad this worked out. And as I mentioned before we start recording, I'd like to introduce each guest. And I do some research. And so I either web stalk you or I reach out to loved ones. And I'll let you decide what you think I did here. But a little bit of introduction to Jay and how we've gotten to know each other is Jay and I got to know each other via a group called Forge Ferocity earlier last year. And that's been, we've been in that group for over a year now, which is crazy. It seems like it's just got going, but it's been amazing. And I think that I thought about that too. Just listened to one of Greg Anderson, who founded Forge Ferocity, one of his many recent podcasts as he gets ready to launch his book. His voice is getting so strong. I think like Forge Ferocity 2.0, whatever that's going to look like, probably is going to get some traffic here soon because it's a really easy guy to follow and emulate and admire and learn from. And then he's like, he always says, like Mondays and Fridays are his calls too, to listen and learn and be vulnerable. And so I think big growth there coming. Shortly after we met, joined Forge Ferocity, we met at Guns and Gis last August and shared the mats and shared the range together. And I had Russ on the podcast, who was also a Guns and Gis attendee. I think he's a repeat offender, as they say. And I mentioned one thing, that when you are in a virtual group like Forge Ferocity, you run the risk of, when you meet those individuals in person, maybe you inflated them, or I don't know, they're showing their best sides. That Guns and Gis experience was beyond, like with everybody from the Forge Ferocity team that I'm at an opportunity to meet and get to know, just exceeded expectation. And I think that's a real testament to the group of individuals that we have in Forge.
100%.
Yeah. So I'll start out with some fun facts that I learned about Jay. And the first one is pretty funny. I guess you have an unhealthy obsession with bananas. You eat like 3 a day.
So you talk to my wife for sure.
I knew right away. And no, I did. I want to say I never reveal the source, but I mean, come on, it's only going to get more apparent as we go. So, hey, I mean, bananas, it could be worse. I just had my college roommate on, and his episode actually dropped today, and he has an obsession with peanut M&Ms. So, I mean, food dyes, sugar,
right.
And could be worse. And I guess I didn't know this about you, and I want to know if it comes along with a parking pass too, but your handicap, I guess you can't stand loud noises, especially high-pitched loud noises. And you actually have a diagnosis of patulous eustachian.
Yeah, patulous eustachian tubes. So yeah, there's kind of a long story behind that. And just let me know when you're ready for it.
If you want to throw it in there.
Let's just touch on that real quick right now. So all my life, I've had this issue with my ears like constantly popping. So it sounds super weird, but I sniff a lot. So like mid conversation, I'll just sniff. And what that does, like that, and what that does is it contracts my eustachian tubes, and I get temporary relief from it for like a few seconds or whatever. But then again, like when I'm chewing or if I'm yawning or something like that, it pops again. And it's kind of that feeling like you have a bucket over your head and you can hear yourself breathing and you can hear yourself talking and it's echoing in your head. That's me constantly. So I've dealt with it all my life, not having any clue what it really was. And about 6 years ago, is when I kind of entered into my fitness journey. I was athletic and stuff in high school, and then, like a lot of us do, just aren't very active after our high school, athletics and whatnot. And took to drinking a lot of beer and just kind of eating whatever I want. So I gained about 30 or 40 pounds, and then 2019, decided to run a marathon and got in shape and dropped like 30 or 40 pounds relatively quickly. Well, so about a few months into that fitness journey, I got these really bad ear infections, both ears, blood, like felt like somebody was jabbing an ice pick in my ears. Terrible. Woke
Yep.
me up and like jolted me awake in the middle of the night, and there's like blood on the pillow, and it's just terrible. So I go into the doctor. They're like, oh yeah, you have an ear infection. Take these drops, whatever. It wasn't helping. Went back, sent me to a specialist. They tested my hearing, all of that. That was all normal. Finally went to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and two of them. The first one, no relief. The second one, I started explaining my symptoms, and he's like, oh, you have a patchless eustachian. 1 in every 3,000 people have that diagnosis, and here's some ways that we can do that. So we can put tubes in your ears, we can inject Botox into your ears, or we can transfer fat deposits back into your tubes, or you can gain all your weight back, and you probably will have a a lot less uncomfortable. Like it'd be a lot more comfortable, and so I opted for the tubes. And it worked in one ear, but not the other ear. So I'm still kind of battling that. But it drives my wife crazy because she loves loud music. She's just really into music, and she loves to blast, her favorite song and sing. And I just like have to go in the other room, or I have to yeah, it's pretty funny.
Maybe as she listens, maybe we can embarrass her. Any embarrassing music that she likes to blast?
No, she's not necessarily. Most of she's an 80s kid, so grew up born in 86, so she's grew up in the 90s, and so 90s gangster rap for sure is her jam. But yeah, there's not much embarrassing her, man. She's pretty perfect, and I'm not just saying that. I hit the lottery with her for sure. So I'm glad she puts up with my disabilities, my banana addiction, and my patches eustachian.
Yeah. Everybody's like, who did Dave get on this episode here? This guy's got a lot going on. Did it come back with that? Does it come with a handicap parking pass?
No, unfortunately it does not.
Well, I don't know. I think you need to work that a little bit more.
For sure.
Since we're so prone to play the victims. Okay, so this was a good one, and this will, I think, lead into some conversation. So I'm just going to say, it was your wife. She said that you have some serious dance moves. And she said, although now that we're sober, we're, plural, almost 6 years, you'll probably never see them. And I think that sounds about right.
I break them out every once in a while for the kids, just to let the kids know that their dad still has it.
Yeah, well, for anybody that is getting to know Jay on Instagram, you throw those, I don't know if you call them dance moves or flexibility, like Cirque du Soleil routines that you do with your wife. I'm like, oh no, this one looks like it's going to be a little rough, but you tend to pull them off. So I'm believing the coordination's there, and jiu-jitsu. I think that probably owns in the coordination. This is something we have in common. 2 things we have in common. You are a terrible singer, and you sing the wrong words all the time to songs, and you make up your own goofy lyrics. I do too. Yeah. It might be the ear. I think maybe I have the ear thing. Now I'm paranoid because I sniff a lot and never figure out what that was all about. And I got weird liquid in my right ear. I think that's more jiu-jitsu related, but
that could be it. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, my air compressor was just kicked on. I don't know if you heard that over the
not at all
conversation. Okay, good. The dance moves come out every once in a while. I'll break them out. The acrobatics comes from yoga, and what we were talking about before with your wife finding that I guess you call it hot CrossFit, that sounds pretty intense. So yeah, we'll do yoga once a week, and then after all the students leave, her and I will do something that we saw on Instagram and try to recreate it. And we have about a 10% success rate on doing whatever move that they're doing. But yeah, it can get pretty intense sometimes.
No,
for
black
eyes or broken bones yet, but it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. No, and that's a perfect segue too. I think just even having those moments, one thing I admire about you, being a husband of, I think we're coming up on 27. I know we're coming up on 27 years. You gotta be certain about those things. I've learned that. And being a father too. One thing I admire about you is just the love that's very apparent in your marriage. And so these next things will really, I think, lean towards that. And I don't know if you have Kleenex out in your workshop, but you might need them. Your wife said, you are the nicest, most genuine, down-to-earth guy. You seriously just want to help everyone win, and you'll help anyone without question. You want nothing in return, ever, but you love to give. You would sacrifice anything that you want or need to make your wife and the kids happy. It makes you happy when they're happy. And to keep it going, she said that you would take a bullet for her and the kids without even a hint of hesitation, and that she feels so safe with you always, not just literally safe. And this is her words, like, I know he could kick anyone's ass that messed with us, but also mentally, emotionally, etc. And then just wrapping it up, your wife said he's just the best dad, the best husband, truly her soulmate. She said you never fight.
True. Yeah, we don't.
Okay. I'm putting you in the spot there, like that quick question, quick answer. Okay, so never fight. Amazing. And you love spending time together. Like I said, that's very apparent. You were high school sweethearts, and you are still obnoxiously in love with each other 20 years later, and you've been married for almost 18.
Yeah, man.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah,
pretty nice. Pretty nice
Yeah.
having someone that you care about that much saying stuff like that, huh?
Bro, that's she she tells me all the time she's proud of me and she supports me, and she, in her actions, she supports me, like, beyond doubt. But man, to hear that, that's pretty rad. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, she ended it with, and I think it's a good segue as we get going here, and I want to ask if I missed anything too. She ended it in saying everyone who knows him is better for it. And yeah, 100%, Jay. I'm really glad that I've gotten to know you over the last year, and we joked a little bit before we got started. So why Jay? Why did I reach out and want to have Jay on the podcast? There's many reasons. But I think one thing that a podcast does is it amplifies voices. And with yours, I really just felt called to do just that. If I could amplify your voice in any way, you provided so much to me over the past year, and you've also provided so much to yourself and your family that I think, or I believe, that people will benefit from hearing you on this podcast. So that's why I got you on. And I guess with that, anything that I missed at all?
Oh man, wow! You just kind of got me speechless, and yeah, hearing that affirmation, what Megan said, wow, that's just yeah, not gonna forget that anytime soon. That's incredible. But no, man, I just try to do my best every day. I just try to be the best version of myself, and I'm not perfect by any means, and always a work in progress. Her and I's relationship, we've had some bumps, and we are and always have been obnoxiously in love. It's just gross how much we love each other, and we're not afraid to show it. I mean, we don't do a whole lot of PDA or anything like that, but people know that we're just madly in love. But there has been struggles, and we can get into this a little later. But our path to sobriety, that we definitely discovered where our bottom was, and we're able to pull ourselves out of it, and but there was some dark times. It got a little dark there for a little bit, but I think we're better for it now. I would not go back and change anything. I think we did the best we could with what we knew at the time, and here we are with the Forge group. Man, what a blessing that is, to just be a part of something that's ever evolving, that's just growing. We're all growing. I was talking with Greg about it the other day, and just how cool it is to see everybody that's involved in that group, how we're all just kind of affirming the people we are, or rediscovering who we are, reinventing who we are and what we need to do to achieve our next goals and that sort of thing, and how we all just rally and support each other along the way, and know that we can call each other anytime. It's more than just, I think it's more than just kind of a men's group or like an accountability buddy group. It's definitely evolved into like some deep, friendships, some deep relationships that we can all, if I ever go to Minnesota, I know I have a place to stay. If
Yep.
if you come to Washington, you have a handful of places to stay.
Yeah.
And now there's members on the East Coast, and was it Maryland? I think there's one down in Texas now.
Yeah.
We got Joshua in Hawaii. I mean, it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
incredible. Canada,
Yeah,
Jordan, Canada.
future state.
Yeah. So it's just, man, super thankful, super blessed, and it's been a journey, but I'm just enjoying the ride and doing the best I can each step.
Yeah, well, maybe we unpack it a little bit then. So your wife said with each other for 23 years, married for 18, high school sweethearts, and so maybe we start there. What was what was Jay like? I don't know. Start wherever you'd like in high school. Maybe when you two met, and what that was like, and kind of we can kind of walk through that to the current day. Because one thing that I did want to cover, and I'm glad you mentioned it, and your wife mentioned it too. The quote, we're sober together. You've motivated me to, and I like the way you talk about it. So we'll get into that, and I'll kind of share that. But so take us back to, so I graduated in 94. I know I'm like ancient. Did you graduate before 2000?
No, 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn it, you're so young. Enjoy it. All right. So I mean, when do you want to start?
Yeah. So I guess in high school I was your typical, high school jock, but I tried to get along with everybody, so I had friends in all groups. I focused on athletics mostly, wrestling, baseball, a little bit of football. Baseball kind of fell off around freshman year. That's something I wish I would have continued, because that was my real passion. But I picked up wrestling in middle school. So I wrestled in middle school and high school, and I was kind of your average, like I was okay. It was weird. I was one of those kids that, like, I had potential, but I never really like tapped into it. I never really focused on becoming really good. So I was kind of like okay with being okay. Which that's one thing if I could go back and change, I would definitely put more effort into making myself better in that regard. But just because I think it could have opened a lot more doors that I would have liked to explore. But no regrets in that regard for the most part. But yeah, so I believe it was my senior year, her junior year. I'd known who she was because we went to school together, like growing up. But it was, that age where, certain girls start catching your eye. So she caught my eye, and I kind of had to wait for her to break up with a boyfriend that she was seeing at the time. So I was like, as soon as that happened, I jumped on the opportunity. So
Yeah.
heard she broke up with her boyfriend.
The most high school thing ever.
Yeah, totally. So heard she broke up with him. Caught her in the hallway and said, like, "Hey, you want to go grab ice cream later after school?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And it was in October, so it was freezing out. And so after school we meet up, and I was like, "Hey, how about some coffee instead?" So we went down to a local coffee shop that's still there, and we go in there pretty often. It's kind of cool, kind of nostalgic now. And so we sat there for like 3 hours, just a couple of kids just talking about like super random things. And we just clicked. It was weird. We had so much in common, and we just liked each other's company. So once that date was over, I went back to my truck, and I had like 19 missed calls from my buddies because we were supposed to leave on a hunting trip that afternoon, and they were like, "Where are you at?" We're supposed to be leaving. And but it was well worth being late for that trip to spend time with her. And then we just kind of been inseparable ever since. And she's definitely my best friend. I never get tired of her. I never feel like I'm like need to get away, her or the kids. Like, I'm not one of those guys that like, oh, I just need a break. I just need to go hang out with my guys for a while or anything like that. It's, I definitely like to train jiu-jitsu, and I definitely like to work out, but those aren't necessarily like breaks from my family. Those are just like things that you have to do. And
would you say with that, in couple of things there? I know one thing that we discussed was if you look back to high school, because we were kind of the same way. I think I had big dreams, but I didn't have anybody there to like reinforce them, or I mean, there was no online scouting. like I said, I'm old. And we had that discussion, like those were the glory days, but it's interesting how you look back on it and you're like, well, if I would have had the support, or if I would have had the money, or if I would have had the time, I would devote myself to that more. And you actually kind of spurred an idea that it's going to be a future podcast one of these days, and it's going to be called Glory Days, because now if you think about the monetary, the time, the commitment, especially my sons are in their 20s now. You kind of reclaim some of that downtime. It's your chance, like, to not relive your glory days, but like fulfill your potential and to start chasing those big things. And you really spurred that thought in my mind. And the other thing I was wondering too, and I'm blanking, of course, but yeah, I mean, so I guess there, that's one thing. And yeah, so maybe pick up from there. So she was a year behind. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So you're both in. You grew up in Washington State, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
I was born in California. We moved up here when I was like 4 years old. So this is pretty much all I know. Born in Burbank, California, and it's funny because my brothers and I have 2 older brothers, and we're all pretty close in age, within a couple of years, and we always talk about how, like, if we would have grew up in Southern California, how much different we would be, just culture wise, because it's just a different culture down there. And so we're all pretty grateful that my parents moved us up here when we were young, and we got to explore the wilderness of the great Pacific Northwest and all of that stuff. And yeah, but no, you're right. I want to touch on that, the glory days, a little bit, because you're right. Like, it's not too late to devote the time and the effort and the energy to being as great as you possibly can. And I'm still working on trying to find that balance, because obviously I have young kids, 11 and 12. Now I did have a career. Now I have exploring the entrepreneurship world, and trying to figure out that constantly. That's definitely a constant learning journey. But yeah, like to just pour into and learn a new skill like jiu-jitsu or anything else that you decide to try that makes you a better person. I was into trail running for a long time, and that was pretty awesome. Mountain biking, same thing. So yeah, trying to like just to catch up, for those years that weren't necessarily lost, but you're just trying to figure it all out. And then now you can kind of find that balance with the wisdom and experience and knowledge that you gain over years. It's funny. It drives me crazy when I talk to 30-something-year-olds that are talking about being old. Oh, we're getting old. Like, you're in your 30s. Like, I feel like 40 is like is like the prime. Like, the 40-45 is kind of like you're not quite peaked yet. You might ache a little bit more after hard training or something like that. It might take you a little bit longer to recover. But I think like the wisdom and the knowledge and you're kind of the package at that point. And as long as you're taking care of your body, like, you are physically probably stronger than you've ever been. And so I hate when I hear people giving up in their shit, even late 20s. It's just like, yeah, you don't know life without taking care of yourself and focusing on fitness and eating right, and not polluting your mind with drugs and alcohol and all of that stuff. And so we're doing our best.
Yeah, and Ashley, so I remembered what I was going to mention, because it's a lot of crossover too. I really something you and I have in common as well is, yeah, I never want to get away from my family. I never have in my mind of like, I just need to get away. Like, now, and as we've discussed too, like on Forge calls, there is a lot of value in taking time away, whether it be a hobby like jiu-jitsu, staying in shape, kind of setting that standard for your kids, being that staying attractive for your wife, staying sharp mentally, also having some time away to remember how much you love your family and miss them and keep that alive too. But yeah, I think that's one thing I see about you, and that's very consistent through your words, Jay, is that we share that in common too. That's the way it should be. I mean, it really should be. And if it's not, there's probably a lot of unspoken conversations that need to be had, and it's okay. And I think a lot of people are in that boat, but I love hearing that from another husband and father, because we're blessed. we're blessed to have them at home, and thinking that we are what we are. That we're kind of like the champion of the household. It gives you something to live up to, and it helps you pursue those things. And I think it also shares as a shared vision for us that it's not the glory days. Our best years are still ahead of us. We can still chase things, and what it looks like in our capacity. I'm not going to put you said mid 40s, which was hurtful. But no, the great thing about sucking in your 30s
40 to 60, I say 40 to 60, I think is like your prime.
I think that's more reasonable. I'll go with that. I still say I'm about halfway. So that's becoming a little bit more of a stretch every year.
Yeah, man. I tell people I'm going to 125. That's my goal. I want to see some stuff.
Well, I don't know where you want to go with this conversation, but I think that the way we're going with AI and the way Elon's talking and Neuralink, if I just keep myself healthy for another 10 years, I'm full, a good candidate for implant, whatever they're going to implant in me. I think 120, 150 is not out of the stretch of imagination. So yeah, I'm game. Yeah, as long as it's not like feeding tube, nursing home Dave, right. And pudding. I think somebody just referred to it as pudding Dave, or whatever their name is. Like if you're in the pudding stage, then yeah, I don't want anything to do with that. I'll check out. Yeah, no, I love it. I love everything, and so glad again to have you on. So we sidetracked a little bit, but so if you go back to junior and senior year, you're putting together a good relationship that's still not a good relationship now, a great relationship, and so pick back up there.
For sure, yeah. She's got an incredible family. Her family is amazing. Really down to earth people. We're kind of, both of us are pretty lucky. We've had some good examples in our lives. Her parents are both still married. I think they're at like 46 years. My parents, same thing. I think they're somewhere in the mid 40s also. They both love each other. It's amazing. They've set a really good example. Her family's a little bit more, I'd say, wholesome than mine. Mine's a little bit more rednecky than your typical family, but yeah.
Is that
but,
we had to leave California?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. But they did good. My parents are amazing. They did a good job raising me and my brothers. And I had a half sister as well. She passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately, too young. I think it was just before she turned 50. She had diabetes real bad and had a stroke, and she recovered somewhat from that. But yeah, she ended up passing away a couple of years after that. So that's pretty unfortunate. But she was an amazing person as well. And she had a son. So I have an awesome nephew, super cool dude. He's just planning. He's planning to get married this summer, I believe. Yeah. And I think I heard that he's expecting his first kid too. So he's growing up, which is crazy because I still see, how you see like your nieces and nephews and stuff as like these little kids, these toddlers, and then all of a sudden they're grown up. And but anyways, so you talk about sidetracking, bro. I can go down some sidetracks. I get distracted really easy. I'm surprised Megan didn't put that on my bio, because she's always giving me crap about like how long it takes me to tell a story, because I segue all over the place. And it's pretty funny. But what does Trump say? He when you circle back, he calls it the he had a term for it. Anyways, I'll remember it mid conversation and I'll shout it out.
Throw it in. You got it.
But I'll circle back eventually. But yeah, she's got an incredible family. So I got really lucky to spend a lot of time with them and have some good examples. Her dad's your typical, man's man, hunter, fisherman, construction worker. He had his own stucco business for a lot of years, and recently retired about, I think 2018, I think he retired. And they're doing well. They're actually just here for a visit, so it was good to catch up with them. And they moved from Washington to Montana, and from Montana to now Idaho, Sandpoint area. So
cool. Yeah, all that Northwest.
Yeah.
So how did the high school sweetheart I tried to navigate that. I did not marry my high school sweetheart. I tried to pursue that in a lot of moving around in a lot of different states with college and stuff. So how did that work for you guys? Because
Uh,
you're a year ahead and you're kind of off. Did you
yeah.
go off to college or what
No.
did you do
Okay.
after high
Yeah.
school?
No. So, Kat, you mentioned back earlier that the support, like the support and guidance piece. I really didn't have that much either. My parents were just happy if I was going to graduate. Um, come from a very blue collar family, so I I I convinced myself early on that I didn't want college and I didn't need college, which is true. But I wish I would have. There's part of me that wish I would have at least done like running start or something like that. The one piece I regret about high school is not, I guess more so than not trying as hard as in sports, is not trying as hard academically, and focusing on that. I joke with I have a couple buddies that graduated a couple years behind me, and there was almost like this like split, where it was cool, high school culture wise, it was cool to get a job, drink beer on the weekends, chase girls, like do manly stuff. And then there was like this split in the early 2000s where it started to be cool to be a nerd and to be a 4.0 student and be a stud athlete. And you could still drink beer on the weekends and chase girls, but they were more focused on academics rather than, like, I don't need school. I don't need to learn. I know everything there is to know already and blah, blah, blah. Being that kind of tough guy persona. So I was caught in the middle of that where I admired the generation that was, a little bit ahead of me as my brothers and their friends, and I hung out with them and I wanted to be that. But then I was like admiring my younger friends
Yeah.
who were smart and cool and all of that. And I was stuck in this between spot. Um,
Yeah.
so that's another area where I'm trying to catch up on is the just learning as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I went like 15 years without reading a book, and now I can't get enough of them. I mostly listen to audiobooks and stuff like that, but I love to physically read too.
Yeah.
Um, and so trying to catch up that in that regard. So I decided early on that I wasn't going to go to college. I was just going to be a blue collar carpenter or laborer of some sort. And so I had one of my older brothers. One went to college, one didn't. The one that didn't started working for our local municipality, city of Arlington, just as a summer help, seasonal employee. And then he decided to join the military. Um, let's see, he graduated in 2000 and he joined the military in 2001. I want to say he joined right before 9/11. Or it could have been right after. I can't remember, but either way, like he didn't skip a beat. He didn't blink an eye. It wasn't like, it was just like, this is my path. This is where I'm going to go. And that's what I want to do. It was, I don't remember him being, like a hard charging, like, let's go, I'm going to go, seek revenge. Or he was just kind of like, all right, here we go. And he's always been kind of even keeled like that. I should preface this. Both my brothers are like my idols. They are my role models. They are my mentors. They are my, like, everything.
That's
Those are the
awesome.
two guys that I hold in the highest regard, like hands down. Like they are incredible. And you talk about savage, like my middle brother. He's one of those guys that uh, that piss you off because he is good at everything. Everything he touches or looks at, he's automatically like an expert in.
Yeah.
Literally anything. Me and my older brother, we both have to work a little harder to be good at something.
Yeah.
My oldest brother, he's super humble, just kind of, like I said, super even keeled, loves everybody, super kind. Well, both my brothers are super kind to everybody. Um, but my oldest brother's been training jiu-jitsu for about 8 years now, off and on, but he's a stud purple belt. And he finally convinced, he's one of the main reasons why I started jiu-jitsu a couple years ago. And I finally got to roll with him last October at a camp, that his gym puts on, SBG. And he's out of the gym in Whitefish, Montana, but
Okay.
they put on this camp in Bozeman. And so we went down to that. And yeah, he's definitely a force, man. He's pretty good. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of funny because my middle brother and I both wrestled through high school, and he didn't. So we could always like whoop on him pretty good.
Yeah.
And then now the tables have turned, and I'm going,
Now
oh
it's
shoot,
all
now I
coming
gotta
together.
start.
Yeah, his motivation is
For
apparent.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's
But
cool. And you were and so yeah, so with jujitsu, really quick, I tried to remember last summer before Guns and Gis, you promoted to blue belt, right?
yeah, just before in July, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so you're no slouch. That's awesome.
No, no, well, lately I kind of have been just because
Yeah, we talked
life,
about that.
yeah, going through a season, but
Yeah,
yeah, I love it. It's addicting. It's something that, you know, the stereotypical biggest regret is not starting sooner, but I'm
yeah,
glad I started, and it's the what it teaches you physically and mentally is awesome, but like the biggest benefit of it, just like our Forge group, is the culture. You know, the culture that Greg's built there at the gym. The culture in general around jujitsu is just it's just incredible. Like the people are super humble, super cool. Not a lot of ego, if any at all. You know,
yeah,
I don't I can't pick one person out in our gym that has any kind of ego at all. Everybody wants to see each other just get better. And yeah, it's pretty awesome.
yeah,
But yeah, so again, told you we'll go all over the place
yeah.
and we'll circle back.
And yeah, no problem. Yeah, so you did you start working trades? She had one more year of high school
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, to finish up, my oldest brother went in the military. His boss at the time said, I don't want you to quit. You know, who am I going to replace you with? He goes, well, my little brother's graduating in a couple months, so why don't you hire him? And so I guess that was so timeline wise. I think my oldest brother joined the military. It was been after 9/11 because it was 2003 is when he joined the military.
Okay. Yep.
So um, I was at the high school in our ag shop, and this 1-ton pickup comes pulling in. It was this guy Ray who I'd met one time, and he had worked with my brother. He said, "Hey, I'm looking for Jay," and I said, "Yeah, that's me." And he goes, "Oh, hey, how you doing? You start work tomorrow. You know, report to the shop tomorrow."
Yeah.
And I go, "I don't even graduate till Friday." This was like a Monday or Tuesday. I go, "I don't even graduate till Friday." And he goes,
Yeah.
"Okay." So he leaves, and then he comes back, and this was before everybody was issued a cell phone and stuff like that. Comes back, he says, "Okay, you start Monday." And so I graduated high school on Friday. Started working for the city of Arlington on a Monday as just a seasonal, you know, maintenance worker, and loved it. Had a blast. Worked with some really great people, and they were able to keep me on. So I worked through that year. I did actually have plans to go to a trade school. I was going to go to a technical college to study mechanics, but you know, I was like, this is a great job. It's got a future.
Yeah.
There's opportunity. I bagged that idea, kept working, and then finally got hired on the next year full time, and was there 21 years.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So,
Yeah.
man, that really adds to what we'll get into with your new endeavor. But that's yeah. I've been anytime you've been anywhere for, gosh, what would you say, like more than 10 years, 15 years? I've been at my job for 17 years. It's hard to remember anything before that, and then anything new is super. I wouldn't say scary, but it's just like you come up with all the reasons to hang on to it because it's just it almost becomes a part of you. It's so normal and well, I got so much time invested into this thing, and as I'm sure we'll discuss, that thing is very little invested into you. So
Yeah, yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah,
cool.
so it was I, you know, so basically I was raised at that in that job, you know, 18 years old, you know, to almost 40.
Wow,
Yeah, I was raised in it.
you were
So
right. That was a good,
yeah,
that was a reliable job that had a feature in it.
yeah, and learned so much. Again, the people, the the biggest thing the thing I miss most about that career is the people, hands down. The citizens that we got to serve, the people that I worked with, some of the mentors that I had. The leadership was up and down. I had some really great leaders, and some of them weren't so great. But there was some really really incredible people that worked there and still work there. And yeah, there's definitely some things I would change about the organization if I was king for a day, but unfortunately, you don't always get a say in that. But yeah, so just tried to learn as much as I possibly could through that career, and skill wise. So I learned, got my CDL, learned how to drive, trucks and commercial vehicles, uh, backing trailers, all of that stuff, learn how to operate equipment, excavators, front unloaders, all kinds of stuff, learning what it took, the little things that you don't really realize that takes skill or a special type of knowledge, like installing street signs, or patching potholes, or laying asphalt, or putting up guardrails, stuff like that, that you drive by it, you see it every day, but you don't really think about everything that goes into it. So it was really cool to be a part of that and experience that, and learn there. But the thing that I learned that I valued the most was leadership. It wasn't necessarily from the organization. That was kind of the opportunity that I had while I was there to learn it. So just kind of a general laborer, for the first 5 years, got promoted into a kind of a senior level position. And then quickly after that was promoted into a leadership position, leading a department full of guys that were twice my age, 10 times the knowledge and skill that I had. And, but they just didn't want responsibility. So they, I was kind of like, I don't know, umpteenth in line for this position. And I was the guy that raised my hand and said, sure, I'll do it. And it was hell for like the first 2 years. It was just brutal. We like yelling matches, fighting, just like battling these guys, trying to earn their respect. And so through that little, that little trial there, I knew I wasn't, again, lack of support and guidance. We had a leader of that, our department, great guy, super nice guy, funny, fun to be around, but he didn't really have that leadership capability where he could guide and mentor people to empower them. And so I knew I didn't have anybody to lean on. So I just took it upon myself to study on my own, and I didn't know what that looked like. So I just found every leadership article. I knew I needed leadership skills. I don't know where that came from, but I knew I needed leadership skills. So I found every leadership article I could find. I Googled leadership. I Podcasts were fairly new at the time, but so I started searching podcasts and listening to a bunch of podcasts, and was still kind of hesitant to implement some of the stuff that I was learning. But so I kind of focused inward, and looked at myself to listen more, to kind of understand the guys a little bit more, and finally was gained the confidence to start implementing some of those leadership tactics, that the techniques and concepts that I was learning about, and I was like, wow, this stuff actually works. And so that kind of turned into like an obsession almost, where it was podcast all day, every day, any not all day, every day, but like any chance I got, the commute back and forth from work. Um, but it was weird because I was still kind of closed off enough to where I was almost embarrassed to admit that I was listening to podcasts about leadership and this nerdy stuff that wasn't like cool, or manly or whatever. And it was like 2 years had gone by that I was listening, and I didn't even tell Megan like that I was listening to these things. And finally,
in the bathroom like for an hour. Not
it
feeling
was right, yeah. But I finally was like, started telling people about, like, hey, I listen to this podcast. And like, you listen to podcasts? Like, yeah, I listen to this podcast about, leadership, this and that, and
right.
building relationships and all this stuff, different stuff. And then it kind of started becoming a running joke where if I was like in a mood, or if I came home from work grumpy or whatever, like Megan would say, well, listen to a podcast or something. Because when I would listen to those things and I would hear these concepts, it lifted my spirit so much that it just put me in a good mood, and it was just super positive and energy, and And I loved it. So when I was in those kind of grumpier moods, they were like, go listen to a podcast and then come back. It's kind of like when you work out and endorphins are flowing, it's hard to be mad. But yeah, so that was probably the most value, the thing I learned with the most value from my career with the city was definitely the leadership, the opportunity to focus on the leadership concepts and that sort of thing was pretty awesome.
You had said you're put into this role, and in complete, I can totally see Jay, just being the guy like, I'll do it, I guess, because it's the right thing to do, and that's something that I think the Forge Ferocity crew has in common is we're often the ones who raise our hand and say we'll do it and step up and take responsibility. And even before Forge, I think we're all doing that to some capacity in our lives. So you're leading, without kind of any context and kind of making up as you go. And I mean, I've been in early leadership positions. I didn't even know what it's called leadership. It's like, oh, well, I guess I'm the boss. And that felt really weird because, yeah, especially managing people that are older than you. Was there anything that like any specific podcast, any specific voice or anything with leadership that like, because you said, oh, I started applying this and it kind of clicked like, oh, this stuff works. Is there any early influences that you can think of that stuck out for you?
Yeah, 100% Zig Ziglar, who, if anybody hasn't heard of Zig Ziglar, just Google him. He's a prolific speaker, mostly towards sales and the world of sales and salesmanship. He was kind of one of the pioneers to break the stereotype of a snaky salesman. He started out door to door selling, I think he started selling like cookware, and was kind of grossed out about the selling people stuff that they didn't need, that the idea of selling people stuff they don't need. So he started developing some of these concepts of the point or the purpose of sales is to help people solve problems that they didn't know they had,
Right.
and not to oversell them on something they can't afford, that sort of thing. And then that kind of snowballs into building relationships and trust and all of those things. And so I found a podcast that it wasn't him. I don't recall when he passed away, but I think he might have already been passed by this time I started listening. It was his son and another guy that put on a podcast called The Ziegler Show, and they would play snippets of his talks, and then they would break them down and analyze. And then his son, Tom Ziegler, would tell stories about his dad growing up and stuff like that, and give you a little bit more context on what he was saying. But he always had these really cool analogies and stories that led to the topic that he was trying to or the point that he was trying to convey. Like one, for example, that sticks out was there was two. One was a block in a mailbox. So that was the title of his talk, was a block in a mailbox. Well, he had gained over the course of his career, he had gained a ton of weight and he wanted to get in shape again. And so he got some running shoes and laced them up and went outside and he only made it a block before he had to turn around and come back. And then, so he made it a point the next day to go out and walk a block plus a mailbox and then turn around and come back. And so, it was just kind of like the moral of the story was basically, don't focus on running the marathon tomorrow. It's going to take some time to get there. So just focus on that block plus a mailbox, and the next day plus 2 mailboxes, that sort of thing, kind of build it up. And the other one that sticks out was kick the cat. So it was a story about a lady that gets yelled at by her boss at work. It kind of goes on, but I'll try to shorten it up. Lady gets yelled at work, goes home, she's all mad, yells at her kid to clean the room, and kid yells at little brother to put something away or whatever, and the little brother turns around and kicks the cat and was just sitting there like minding its own business. And it was just kind of demonstrated that ripple effect that your attitude or your action towards somebody can have down the road. Like that boss yelling at that employee didn't know that would result in that employee's kid kicking a cat. So it just our words have a ton of value and impact. So just cool little concepts like that just kind of resonated with me. And then, of course, you can kind of exhaust one source of information. So the other thing that really appealed to me, and I've never been in the military or any kind of service in that regard, but military leadership really resonates with me. And I don't know if it's I think it's just the rawness of it, and the how it's applicable in almost all aspects of life, and
Yeah.
Jocko really shines a light
Yeah.
on that. So, read Jocko's books. Um, Mike Sorelli was another great one. He was a Navy SEAL and I think Marine recon. What do you call them? Recon scout snipers, whatever.
Yeah. Recon Marine.
Yeah, recon Marine. And he wrote a book called oh shoot, now I'm gonna blank on the name of his book, but it was super incredible too. And it was all about leadership and how to attract and retain employees and that sort of thing. And the thing that I kind of focused on the most was, and that's why I love hearing Greg talk about this too, is building culture, how to build culture within a group. And it could be a small group. It could be, and I was thinking about this the other day during our, yesterday on our Forge call when we were talking with Stephen Hand and how he's starting his new business as a handyman service. And he's a one-man show, and Joshua with his landscaping business, how like even just a one person, if it's an owner operator, there's still culture to be built within that, and that culture radiates to your customer base, and you're still building it there. And then if and when you do bring on an employee, it's established, and then that employee, the thing that we always the one of the ideas and concepts that we focused on amongst our leadership group at the city was, we want people to come in here and conform to our culture. We don't want to conform to somebody that comes in here. And in order to do that, we need to establish a culture that's so strong, that's so unbreakable, that no matter how toxic a person is, they're going to end up self-selecting out, as opposed to the rest of the group conforming to their needs. And I think we accomplished that at the city. I still keep in touch with
That's awesome.
the friends that I made there. I still keep in touch with the guys and gals, and it seems to still be pretty rock solid. And they keep me informed of who they're bringing on, and sort of they actually once or twice have said, hey, I want to get your thoughts on this, and what would you do in this situation? And it feels really cool to still be kind of leaned on for some advice every once in a while. And even though now I'm removed from the group, it's and then that just goes to show you how strong those bonds can be when you have a positive culture and that sort of thing.
Let me ask you a question about that, because I think I know where this answer might go, but it's important. When you talk about, you were in a position, a young leader, learning about leadership, you also mentioned something that we share in common. As actually talking to my, like I said, my college roommate was just on the podcast that dropped today. He was like a D- student. I was somehow a B student. I read one book in high school, and we joked about it in the podcast. It was Catch-22. And he's like, "Oh, great book." And I'm like, "Actually, I just kept reading it to see if it'd get better. I didn't think it did." So that's a one book I remember opening. I'm sure there were others. I did not apply myself, but somehow as a B student. But when we found something we were interested in, when we found a need or something that we like had a passion behind, or a real purpose, like we were getting paid to do something and we had to do it better, we both started to grasp onto things academically. And like you said, books became attractive. Like books were knowledge. Like books were there for us to kind of fill those deficiencies. And so it's interesting to see you kind of come full circle into that as I know you now. But in that environment, working for the city, that's interesting. I don't want to miss that. You get on this team where you want to create culture so that if someone comes externally into the team, they self-select out. But there's a conscious effort. Did you lead that? And I guess that'd be the first question. Did you kind of lead that idea, or was it a few people on your team? Because I think that the power to even like say that, like you joked, you used to listen to these business books, self-improvement, leadership podcasts in secret, like your secret life. sometimes it takes someone to stand up and say, hey, we should build culture here. Yeah, we work for the city. And some of you might take that seriously, some of you might not. But the individuals who stand up, it's amazing how many times other people are thinking the exact same thing, but they just won't say anything. So, like, how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and what you said there, that I was kind of hiding my learning from people. That kind of tells you what kind of culture we had when I got to the city and I started in that leadership position. It was very toxic. It was very negative. Um, Everything that we were asked to do was answered with why should we be doing this, or this is stupid, that like we should be doing it this way. And but nobody ever had the courage to like step up and say like, hey, why don't we do it this way, or that sort of thing. It was just your stereotypical grumpy city worker
Yep.
environment. And that culture was fostered by our leader, and nice guy, but it was he just lacked the confidence to take us in the positive direction that we needed to go. I was put in that position at kind of a opportune time where some people were aging out and reaching a retirement age, and so um, I I got I guess I didn't have to remove them, because these were some people that like they weren't going to self-select out. It was kind of like
Yeah.
they were going to have to be
Your
removed at some
lifers,
point.
they're almost
Yeah,
done. Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, I guess in a roundabout way, um, when I got the opportunity to lead the group and instill some of that positive culture, it it didn't it was uncomfortable to those types of people. So there was a handful of people that they just were not going to buy in. So they
Yep.
did end up self-selecting out. So we had this kind of slow turnover over the years, and I don't care who you are, and I think Greg talks about this too. Is that culture is so slow to build. Like if you think you're
Yeah.
going to change culture overnight and by going in and chopping heads or whatever, like it's not going to
Yeah.
happen. It takes years to build a strong positive culture, and even then, and that's why I talked about it with the crews so much. Um, was why we needed to build such a strong foundation is because it's fragile. And when you first start building that positive culture and people are starting to buy into it and they're starting to get grasp the concepts and it's starting to feel pretty cool and becoming the new norm, it's still super fragile. All it takes is one asshole coming in and wrecking it all, just by their toxic negativity. Because if you think of us as people, we're easily influenced, right?
Yep.
And it's easy to buy into that group think. And what's easiest to gravitate towards is negativity. That's
Yep.
something that it's, for whatever reason, it's so much easier to be negative than it is to be positive. It takes work to be positive, right?
Yep.
So it's still fragile until you build that rock solid foundation and making positivity, making optimism the new norm. It takes a lot of time, and sometimes it takes certain people to leave the group to make that happen. But let's see, I was going somewhere with that. I told you we'll circle back around. Um,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I mean, I had kind of asked,
oh, right, yes,
like how did that come to fruition? Was it you
yeah,
standing up saying, "Hey, we got to make
yeah,
this, we got to turn this culture around"? Was there a couple of you, or
yeah. So it was me kind of it was me kind of leading the charge, somewhat under the radar. Um, I was still reporting to my manager at the time, who was the nice guy that just kind of lacked leadership capabilities. Um, he kept it toxic, so I was trying to like make these changes. And he was keeping it toxic by trying to just be buddies with everybody, and
yep,
then other certain people that he didn't like, he would outwardly make it known that he didn't like these people, and it was just very very toxic for like, I don't know, the first couple of years that I got to lead. I'd say like 2 to 5 years that I got to lead there. So he ended up retiring early. It was one of those like early retirement type of things. So uh, I took that opportunity to, as I wasn't promoted to his position yet. I was interimly promoted to that position, but I
okay,
took the opportunity to to lead that to lead us towards that positive culture, that goal. So there was 2 leads in our department at the time that I had some buy-in with, but they were still had some of that old culture mentality. So, but as a young guy that's learning all these new concepts, I came on really strong, like really strong. So every other day I would come in and I'd just be like running around shaking people going, hey, you'll never guess what I just learned today. Here's what we need to implement, and like,
Yeah.
check out this concept, and
Yeah.
I came across really, really strong until one day I had these guys in my office who I have a ton of respect for both of them and admire them both. Both quite a bit older than me, and they supported me in my leadership position, leading them, which was really cool. So, super thankful for that. But I had them in my office one day, and I'm just going like, I drink a lot of coffee, so I'm just like, blah, 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 at me, like not listening to a word. And I recognize that, and I go, hey, am I coming across a little bit too strong with this positivity and stuff? And they were so relieved that I said something. They're like, yes, you absolutely are.
Yeah.
We love it. We understand it. We understand we need it, but it's just way too much too soon. And I was like, noted. Great. Thank you for telling me that. And so from then on, that told me like, okay, chill a little bit on all this different stuff. Like everybody kind of goes at their own pace.
Yeah.
And then, during our conversations though, I would look for the opportunities to start to interject a leadership concept that I had learned or something like that. And then as I learned more, it's kind of that Dunning-Kruger effect, the bell curve where the less the more you think,
Yeah.
So I was starting to peak out on that and come down to the other side. So as I was learning more, I was learning to back off more, and I was learning to open up my ears more and not talk as much, and all that stuff. So it just I don't know. I hate taking credit for it because there was a lot of amazing people that kind of that we all had our part in establishing this positive culture. But I would say I kind of spearheaded it, and then then kind of transitioned to just facilitate it. When somebody came up to me with a problem, I was like, okay, well, what would you do? And then I kind of started to implement the policy, that a lot of people do is, hey, come with me with a problem and a solution, and then we can talk about that.
Yes.
So that helped a ton, and then that kind of snowballed. And then it's funny because there's like an internal like sense of importance when your phone rings constantly. Like it makes you feel important. It's annoying, but it kind of makes you feel important at the same time. And when it doesn't happen, you kind of like, oh, I kind of miss people leaning on me and stuff like that, right? But so what I would try to instill in the leaders that were coming up, I was like, their phones would be ringing constantly with the frontline crew out there, like, hey, I got this problem, or hey, they got this question, or hey, what do you want me to do now? And so I would, every time that happened while I was having a conversation with one of our leads, I was like, and I wouldn't hear them ask that question, what would you do, or like that sort of thing. And so we would talk about that, and I would teach them that, and then it would take a long time for them to kind of like come around, because I think that, and it took a while for me too, because you get rid of that need to have that say, or need to have that being the guy that has to have the answer all the time. It takes a little bit to let that go. So it was kind of cool. But yeah,
So
I would say it was a group effort to change the culture there.
So you said, so it turns the corner, and you said there was credit. There's credit that you hate to take, or you hate to claim, but there was credit there. So that's kind of some closure on that. But let me ask you, kind of during that, 2 questions. One, like, why did it matter? Because you were in a kind of a toxic culture. I mean, people are working for the city, and I mean that's anywhere. There's toxic, like you said, people slant towards the negative. It's a job, case of the Mondays, all that crap like that. And for a lot of people, that's just life for 40 years, and then they retire and die shortly after. But for some reason, it's different. So, like, 2 questions: why did it matter to you? And then along that way, as you're getting pushback, and there's still that toxic culture, and your supervisor is kind of furthering it. You ever feel like giving up?
Oh yeah,
Along the way?
yeah, for sure. there was a handful of times that I've thought, okay, I'm done. I'm going to quit. Like I'm miserable. It wasn't necessarily the crew or anything like that. It was more of like, it was more my leadership that was not supporting me enough to want to continue to try.
Yeah.
But I think I sensed that we needed it because it was so toxic. Like some of the stories I could tell it was so bad. It was just so bad. There was bullying, there was harassment, there was, hostile work environment, sexism, racism. It was terrible. I had a director, in almost weekly. We had weekly leadership meetings with this director, and almost every single week he's dropping the N-word like it was part of the vocabulary. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not a prude, like, and you know me, I
Yeah.
have a mouth like a sailor,
That's
but
a hard
like,
line for
that's a hard line. Like,
normal
you
human
don't do
beings.
that.
Yeah.
Right. And the way he would talk about other people in the organization, um, and then that would get my old supervisor going, my old manager going, because he was just like a little puppy, like eating it up, like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's go. And he would go, and it was just like this gross like exchange. And so in the leadership meetings, it was just the four of us, him, another the manager that reported to him, and then me and my manager. And me and this other guy would look at each other and like, what the F is going on? Like, this is not right. And they would just be, feeding off each other. And then at one point, they both, my manager and him, sat me down and were like, hey, we want this person gone. You need to start building a case on this person. I was like, what'd they do? Like, we don't like them. We want them gone. I was like, for literally no reason, they wanted this guy gone. Luckily, I mean, I knew enough then to not follow through with that. And it was just a gross, toxic environment. So it needed to happen. I was miserable. Like, selfishly, I needed a new culture established. I knew if I was miserable, then I didn't have enough filter,
Yep.
for the rest of the crew to not be miserable as well.
Yep.
And yeah, so we ended up making it happen. But it literally took probably, you know, it took a handful of years, probably 3 to 5 years, to fully establish it. And unfortunately, just as we like got good, just as we got solid, just as like everybody shows up to work, huge smiles, everything's positive, everybody's working really hard. We're having to tell people to take vacation because they feel bad about taking vacation because they feel like they're
Right.
letting down the team. Like, nobody's calling in sick, very rarely. Prior, there was tons of sick time abuse. People were gaining 8 hours a month and using 8 hours
Yep.
a month. Like, they
Yep.
were zero bank. And we got it to the point where we're like having to tell people to take time off. And it was just an awesome, positive place to be. Everybody's going out for drinks after work, you know, doing stuff on the weekends, it was just really cool. And July of last year, I got called into the city administrator's office, and it was during the same time as our regular weekly check-in meeting. And HR's there, and they had said, hey, we're restructuring the department, and it doesn't involve you, so we're eliminating your position. We're considering it a layoff, and
Yeah.
that's it. And it was like, wow, what
Yeah.
a kick in the gut, man. Still to this day, I ask why, and I say just business, nothing personal.
Yeah.
And after asking what I do wrong, still nothing. And so, your typical political witch hunt. I
Yeah.
There's two other directors in the organization that I didn't get along with. I made it known that I didn't like these guys just because the way they treat people is just terrible. They're not good humans. I made it a point I made it known that I don't like these guys, but I was professional. I would still work with them when I had to. I would still, we were the maintenance department, so we would still maintain their facilities and their equipment, and I would play nicely, but I just made it known that I
Yeah.
do not like these people because they're not good humans. And I think that might have had something to do with it, because they are both the type of people that have their nose buried up, the city
Yeah.
administrator's butt, and the city administrator is a person that likes that, apparently. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, yeah. I mean, you answered why it mattered. really well, and you talked about the leadership capability that you gained because you applied leadership at a young age. You applied leadership leading people who are older than you. You applied leadership in a toxic culture, and then you refined and you refined and you refined and you learned. And I love that. I don't know what type of leader I am, but I know I am a leadership nerd. Like I nerd out like extreme ownership. It's never like more than 5 feet from me. Like I take it in my truck just in case I need it. Jokingly, like I have it almost memorized by now. And I actually talked to a group this morning, like how to lead your family, like your kids. This guy's got teenagers, and I'm talking about, think about it like capital, like you got a credit card, right? And so like those major words that like, or those major altercations or lines in the sand that you draw, those are big debits, and you only have so much credit unless you're replenishing that credit. So every time and actually, I told him, I go, with my 20-year-old right now, there's some big conversations that are going to be happening with him, like where he's going with his career and where he's going with the relationship that he's in. And if I am in this role with 20-year-olds more like a coach than I am, parent when they're under my roof, when they're in their teens or before that. And so those lines in the sand, I pretty much just sit back and I really enjoy the life that both my sons are leading. And I laugh at some decisions, I cringe at others, but really it's their adventure. But I reserve that capital because I know that there's big conversations to be had. Like when they're looking to get married, when they're having kids someday, the way they parent, that's when I'm going to cash in that capital. But as a leader, like you learn that, right? I didn't know that as a young dad, as a young leader. So the question I have for you, I guess, finally kind of wrapping that up, because that's awesome, the way it went and what you chose to do, because that's just the kind of guy you are. Was it worth it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And real quick, to go back to your thing, you are a leader, 100%. Even without even talking in some of our Forge meetings, Dave, you lead, even talking just a little bit, because I think the value you bring is perspective. Whenever somebody has an issue or somebody brings up a topic that might be hard to talk about or something like that, you're always bringing a perspective for us to see through that just shines a little bit different light on it. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, I never thought of it that way before. And right here, where you're talking about the leadership capital, I learned about that concept and I applied it to my work environment. I never thought about applying it to my kids and banking that until they're adults. Like that's huge, man. That was gold right there, what you just said. So I appreciate that. I'm gonna take that and definitely use that for sure. That was incredible.
Yeah,
But
thanks, man. Appreciate
yeah, man. Yeah, perspective is huge. Yeah, worth it 100%. The department needed it, the team needed it. It's kind of funny because one of my good friends who had started working there, and it was kind of funny because there was a point where I kind of got not talking to, but there was a rumor started that I only hire my friends. And if you know Arlington, Washington, it's not a very big city. It's a pretty tight community. So everybody, if you're from here and you grew up here, you know a lot of people. And it just so happened that there's a couple of my friends that applied for some of the positions that we had open. And I was intentional about removing myself from the hiring process until the very end, where I implemented this thing where we would have two separate interview panels. One kind of asking questions about culture fit and personability, and the other one was more of like kind of how would you handle this situation? Kind of more of your hard skills, more of your like technical abilities and stuff like that, kind of gaining their knowledge on the technical aspects. And then once we picked our top 2 or 3 candidates from those interview teams, we came together as one big group and we invited them up just to have a casual conversation. And the crew loved that because everybody feels like they're part of the process at that point, right?
Yep.
And all of my friends that we quote hired, I didn't have a say in any of them. I completely removed myself. They didn't know, the rest of the team didn't know that these guys I knew and had a history with. Then they ended up getting the position. And so it was kind of, my response to that was kind of like, sorry, I
Sorry.
know great people. Like, I know really great people. I surround myself with good people. Sorry. But anyways, so one of my friends, my friends that I hired, after I got let go, he was like, you called this like a year ago. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I remember you sitting down and telling me that like you're holding back the department from you're by not you were saying, I said something like, the department would benefit if I was to leave. And by that I meant like, depending on the way it was structured, it's kind of hard to like paint the picture the way it was because it was kind of messy, but the way our department was currently structured, by me remaining in my current position, I was holding back other people from being promoted into leadership positions and having an impact. And I modeled it out to removing myself and implementing a couple new positions that it would gain more efficiency and it would gain more bodies in the field doing the work. And our biggest challenge was, and efficiency was, just a lack of capacity. And so I'm like, I'm kind of doing you guys a disservice by continuing to fight and stay here. And so it was just kind of ironic that ultimately I got let go, and yeah, it was interesting.
Well,
but
yeah, that's, and I knew you would say it was worth it, but so what you just pointed out, Jay, and it's so much like why I had you on, and why I think you're such a force within the Forge group is that, like many of us, you don't operate from a scarcity mentality, and you just proved that out. Like who does that? Like no one. It's hard enough as a leader to get people to do like succession planning or like even standard operating procedure write-ups. So if they go on PTO, you kind of know how to do their job because they're like, well, somebody could take my job. Or, if I wrote it down, then I'd be somehow, less valuable. And here you're like running the numbers. You're like, oh, well, it really do better without me. And yeah, so I think that's a testament. And I would say, whether you answered it was worth it or not. So what I heard was, throughout your entire story so far, like I'm writing down some keywords, and I know this about you. This is truth, but you've mentioned serving, your friendship, your family, how you look up to your brother, how you look up to both your brothers, the role of your mom and dad, their marriage, your wife's parents, their marriage, that their family's wholesome. That idea that no one else can step up and do it, and sure, I'll do it. That kind of like do the thing mentality that we have as a Forge Ferocity group. You model that. You come through it for some reason in a toxic environment where people could, you're probably annoying people. You're very caffeinated and very young, and here they're trying to probably mail in the last 15 years of their city career, and you're telling them how things should be. It's not an easy situation to be in, but you chose not the easy path, but the right path. Like you said, not only for you, I mean, there was a component, of course, for you, but a lot of people, here's how people normally handle that. They just leave. Like if I can't have it here, I'll just go get it somewhere. And like you said, one thing that we've learned from Greg is certainly true, is that community is important. Community does not happen overnight. And so you come through that, and that's a leader. And so I don't know what you were goaling for or what you think you got out of it. I think you know this about yourself. I really hope so. And I think that your wife's words really point that out. I'm sure your children's words mimic your wife's. We tell you on Forge all the time, you are a leader. And so you are forged, to use that term, you're forged through that trial and that job for a reason. But if we go back, because I think there's something here too that I want to touch on. Like I said, I admire greatly about you. If I'm doing math, and that's what I do all the time. So you left in 2024. Your wife said 6 years sober. So I'm saying 2018?
19, yeah.
19?
Yeah. So it'll be 6 years this year. This August will be 6 years.
And you threw some more math at me. You said about the last 3 to 5 years, all of this was kind of starting to take shape at your job. There's something that preceded that, wasn't there? Like you started to care about yourself. You and your wife started to care about each other and yourselves. was it before you kind of had this idea of like, hey, no one else is leading, or kind of how does that all play out? Because I think that's a component. Like you have to care about, you have to love yourself, you have to love those closest to you, and then I think through that comes a lot of empowerment, that you would trust yourself to be quote unquote a leader, not even knowing what that meant, but you would pursue that. So how did that kind of play in?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So I started kind of down my leadership journey prior to getting sober. It was I want to say about 2015-ish is when I really started getting into it. And real quick, I did start to go back to college. 2016, I actually started taking a couple online classes, and had some conversations with my manager at the time, and we just like, I was like, what do I study? What do I get a degree in? And he was like, well, how about project management? It's a good broad
Yeah.
topic and covers a lot of areas. And I said, okay. So I started taking some project management classes, and I noticed that the school I was attending had offered this certificate programs while you're going towards your degree. They pick four out of like a list of like 6 different classes, and some of them had to do with project management, and then there was several on there that had to do with leadership. And obviously, like, I was like, oh, cool, let me
Yeah.
grab those.
Yeah.
Well, as I was learning the project management ones, I did not. I didn't want anything to do with it. It was just boring to me. It was, and in regards to project management, like when you go for a degree with project management, they're talking like designing and building a freaking airport. Like it's big projects. They're not
Yeah.
talking about just managing a small construction project. Like
Yeah.
it's big,
Something you'll
big scale.
never be doing
Yeah,
unless you're
like
about 20 years into a career.
right,
Yeah. So
100%.
perfect
So
academic example.
yeah, exactly. So, but there was a class on managerial decision making and organizational leadership, and I was like all about those.
Yeah.
And I actually took those the learnings, the concepts that I learned from those 2 classes, and I wrote up a big proposal and presented it to our mayor about culture change, a culture shift within the city organization, and trying to get people to look at it again from a different perspective, instead of looking at their roles as jobs, to start looking at their roles in careers and purposes. Like, what is your purpose within this career that you have with the city of Arlington? That was my goal to like kind of implement throughout the organization. Obviously didn't go as far as I wanted it to. I didn't have I didn't have the influence to change the entire organization, but I did have the influence to change my department. So that's what I focused on. And that's where we've seen success there, was I was able to rally and build the team to kind of spearhead that shift there. But yeah, sorry, again, going around in circles.
No, it's
Uh,
all great. It's
so
all
I
part
took,
of the story.
yeah, so I took some of those classes. Um, that was like 2016. um really got into leadership, but there was always something like I felt that was missing, something that I could do better at. And during that time, again, I was still reporting to my toxic manager, and so to cope with kind of this frustration at work and the stress, I drank a lot. And we always kind of like hung out and partied with friends on the weekends and stuff like that, but it never got to the point where we like really considered it a problem until like 2018, early 2019. It was just, we were a young couple having kids, and this is what you do.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things in both of our lives was very present. Alcohol was always very present in both of our lives growing up, and unfortunately still is within her family. I wouldn't call them alcoholics or anything, but like maybe borderline. But there's some issues
Right.
there,
Yeah.
without getting into it too much. But it's just something like it's the normal, right? Everybody's like, come over for Christmas and have a drink. Can I get you a drink? Can I get you a beer? It's just very prevalent. And so we kind of bought into that. And next thing you know, long story short, we're weekly, we're going to the grocery store, Costco weekly, and getting literally 6 half gallons of vodka to last us that week. And her and I would, during the week, I would get home from work, all but push the kids out of the way, go to the cupboard, slam a couple shots, and then like, okay, now I can be dad. And I knew it wasn't healthy. I knew it wasn't like good, but that's just what we did. And I remember having this conversation with myself, like accepting the fact that I'm in my mid 30s, I'm 40 pounds overweight, and this is just what it is. This is just your typical American, right? And I remember accepting like, okay, this is what I am. And I look back and I laugh because like how weak, how weak of a way of thinking that is, right? Like not wanting to change to make your physique look better or be more attractive to your wife, or just to feel better all around, or be a better example to your kids. Instead, you're just going to sit there and accept that you're overweight, and that's just the way it is. So luckily, again, like I mentioned, times kind of started getting darker and darker around 2018, 2019. Her parents moved away. Her parents moved to Montana, living out their dream. They were, her dad retired. Her mom was able to work remotely and moved offices. She sells insurance. And so they were living out their dream, building a beautiful home in Florence, Montana, Western Montana. And at the same time, her older brother, who we had a close relationship with, also moved. He moved to Sandpoint area in Idaho. And we still had little brother here, which we were pretty close with too, but she kind of felt abandoned by her parents. So that just exacerbated the is that the right word? Exacerbated the drinking for us. We just kind of like, she's like, well, my family's not here anymore, so I'm just gonna drown my sorrows. Ended up getting on antidepressants for a short period, which like those are poison. Don't ever recommend anybody touching those, like ever. They're poison. They're straight poison. I don't think they do anybody any good ever. There's definitely way better alternatives. Because she got on those and, obviously didn't quit drinking while she was on those. And I'm sure the label recommends it. Dude, it was like she would take a drink after being on her antidepressant, and it was a shell. She was gone. Like it was spooky, like gone. It was so hard to explain, but like soulless. And of course, my reaction, being stupid at the time and being an alcoholic, was, okay, well, if she's just going to be a shell and not care about what she does or says or anything like that, I'm going to see how drunk I can get. Right. And kind of it turned into this competition of who can get, more wasted, and super, super toxic. It never got to the point where, we were putting our kids' lives at risk. It never got to the point where we were, there was no violence or anything like that. It was just a gross, toxic kind of place we were both in. We both needed it to function. We jokingly called it the first shot we took in the morning as our leveler, to kind of shake off the hangover. My reprieve was getting up and going to work every day. So I had that 8-hour, 10-hour buffer of not drinking. And then I would get home and obviously play catch up, because she would never shut it off. We would drink till we went to bed, and then she would wake up and have her leveler and keep it going. Not to the point where she was wasted and unable to. She's a great mom. She always has been an incredible mom. But it was just not a good example for our kids to see. And finally it got to the point where I knew it was a problem when we took a break. We took like a month or two break, and then it was like, okay, we can have like a drink or two. We can have a beer or cider here. We can have a glass of wine with dinner. Well, that lasted like a day, and it turned into 2 bottles and a box, and then it turned in back to vodka, and then it got to the point where she started hiding it. And I found out about it, but I think it was like looking deep in a cupboard for some cooking supplies or something, and I found a bottle hidden way back in the cupboard, and I was like, what is this? And then later on I found out she was hiding it in the floor vents. It was like, in water bottles in her purse, and all this different stuff. So it got to the point where we're like, all right, like we're done. Like we have to quit. We can't drink anymore. And that was really hard. It was, without getting too personal, it was really hard to see. Again, I had my reprieve, those 8 hours per day, 8 to 10 hours per day that I was at work, and she didn't. So I wouldn't say that I was any any less of an alcoholic than she was, but I'd say I had a little bit more, or I had any more control over it, but I wasn't as bad yet as she was, dependent wise, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So seeing her go through those withdrawals, she got off antidepressants, thankfully. Like that was short lived, thank God. But still, like seeing her like detox from the alcohol was brutal. Um, Looking back, like 100%, she should have been medically detoxed, but we did it cold turkey and we did it together, and literally it was like, watching your wife like fight a severe flu for like 6 months.
Yep.
Chills, nausea, like all of the dizzy spells. So we basically reclused for like 6 or 8 months, just the two of us. We didn't go out much. We didn't hang out with any friends, but it kind of gave us a chance. That was August, um, uh, late August of 2019. I can't remember the exact date. So hers was like August 28th, I want to say, and mine was September 1st of 2019. I was out on a hike with some friends, and we came back down off the mountain, and we went to a brewery and had a beer that Saturday before Labor Day. And so mine was a couple days after hers, but like we were done after that. And reclusing ourselves from everybody and just kind of like holding up, it caused us to kind of reset our
Right.
relationship, reset
Yep.
our mindsets, focus. So, and like I mentioned before, that February of 2019, my my brothers and I and a couple of our friends decided it was a good idea to sign up for a marathon that October. And when you're 40 pounds overweight, sitting on a couch drinking beer, you're like, yeah, no problem, easy.
Yeah.
you know.
That's
And
coming to you. Yeah.
dude, that first training run, I think, was like 3 miles. It was brutal, the most brutal run I've ever been on.
Yeah.
And but thankfully we kept at it and kept going, and I destroyed my knees by not like focusing on form or function or anything like that. And but and thankfully we quit drinking a month before the marathon, because I think that definitely helped get me even more
Yeah.
ready for it.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny too, just real quick. I think it was that September. Also, my brother thought it would be a good idea to sign up for a 50K, right? Literally 1 week before our marathon. And I was like,
I didn't know that
that
was a
taper,
time on
that taper you're
uh,
supposed to have,
yeah.
it didn't
It's
happen.
something more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but that was such a blast, man. That was a good time. But
Well, So
so to circle back
yeah.
to what you said, something was missing, and that something that was missing was my sobriety. I couldn't think clearly enough to really fully affect the change that I wanted to change in
Yeah.
our organization. I couldn't be the best version of myself while I was polluted with alcohol. So once I did stop, my world cleared up. Like I was able to think clearly. I was able to, I was in shape, running, training for the marathon, all that stuff. I was in better shape. So I felt good. I've had more confidence. And then that was kind of the catalyst that kind of kept it going, and really, really, rocketed us in the right direction, as far as fully implementing that culture change that we needed. So it was pretty cool. And I got feedback from the crew that they were inspired by my fitness journey and me getting healthy and all of that stuff. And also I kind of went back and forth with the college thing. I'd take a couple courses here, a couple courses there, but then I just didn't like it. I didn't like being forced to learn something. I wanted to learn it on my own.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of other training opportunities and learning opportunities through some other programs that the city was part of and all of that stuff. So they said they were inspired by as much. Every time I took advantage of those opportunities, it inspired them to take advantage of those opportunities. So one of our big drivers, or like what I would encourage most, was like that, investing in yourself, investing in your learning. So I would
Yep.
constantly encourage, and we ended up going from, I think we had like a $2,000 a year training budget. when I left, I think it was up to like 10 or 15,000, because I really wanted these guys to not just get some like cheesy one day kind of motivational speech or something. I really wanted them to go after like a course or certification course or something that they could hold some value that would not only help them in our organization, but even further if they decided to leave. There was that quote from Richard Branson that you treat employees, or you train employees good enough to where they can go anywhere, but you treat them well enough to where they want to stay. I really embrace that, and so we got a guy, his certified arborist, an arborist certification. We got backflow assembly tester certification, BAT, where they certify backflows in the water system.
Yep.
Where that's super valuable in anywhere you go. A lot of these certifications that they can take with them other places. We got people trained up with their CDLs, all kinds of stuff that we can, that seemed far out there that we couldn't relate. We would figure out a way to relate it to the job so that we could justify spending the money and getting them trained up. And yeah, it was super rad. But yeah, so that was it, man. Sobriety and fitness really propelled us. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. You know what I hear from that? One word that I thought of was like, you start to find purpose, and then it's like, well, what's not feeding this purpose for you, and you're trying to better yourself. I think that's a 30-year-old not only purpose but like meaning in life too, like, because purpose is like skills, and so like you're building skills. You're getting all these certifications, you're tracking with like this leadership path, and it's starting to come, starting to see some fruit. But like, it works now. Like you're not with the city anymore, but all that purpose, it really was going towards meaning. And like the meaning for you that I see, Jay, is husband. And the beauty of like your story that I think needs to be heard is there's people that are taking that shot, and that's like their way to get level. And I, half my family, my mom's side of the family was high functioning alcoholics. Like, and we're in Minnesota and Wisconsin, so like we created that term. It's legit out here, and the winters and stuff kind of exasperate it. So I'll go with the same term. I don't know the term, but we'll go with it. That made it worse. And I just think if you're in that boat, a lot of times you can't see out. So you get into your 30s and you say, well, this is it. This is as good as it gets. And for people who are listening, the words you're using, serving and friendship and family, a lot of those are a part of you before alcohol found its way into your life. And those still not only exist because that's a true part of you, like alcohol came into your life, alcohol influenced your life. Alcohol was not you. It was not your wife. And that's abundantly clear now, because when I think about getting to know you, now moving forward, you have a glow, like you have a really strong energy around you. You have, between you and your wife, Megan, and your family. Now, I mean, granted, this is Instagram life. So, I mean, you could just be a real dick away from Instagram, but it, like, that real recognizes real. I have that. I love my family. I am that man for my wife. I know I can always be better. I try to get better. I self-assess to get better. I care about being a father. I love my freaking dogs. Like I can clearly understand John Wick now. Like, he was very reasonable. So I recognize that. And I want that message to be clear. Like, if you're in that spot, and I'll kind of conclude this with how you've influenced me, those things are not you. Those things that are influencing you or taking you down or diminishing you or making it hard to think or hard to be the leader you want to be, or just hard to be, are not you. And you clearly demonstrate that, because now that's gone for 6 years. And I love that bond that you have through that. And the way that you're describing your wife going through that in the experience, I feel that, because I love my wife, and none of us want that, but you weather that together. Now you get to see and reclaim and remember what you're truly about, and you are, and it rebounds. It rebounds off of you, and it deflects off of you, and it goes on to your friends, and we all see it, and we all love you more for it. You were a big influence. So I I'll say I had a luxury to stop drinking, meaning I was a casual drinker, but the way you described it, maybe you can add to this. The idea that alcohol is not in any manner like a benefit, and you kept throwing that out there. I keep seeing like I want to level up. Like I admire this love, this glow, this energy coming off Jay and his family, and what's not in that picture, alcohol. And you're right. To me, it was I can't defend it anymore. Like there's nothing physical, there's nothing mental, there's nothing about my mood, there's nothing about my state that was beneficial from it. And again, casual drinker, like drinks a month. Actually, I got in a whiskey club, and it turned out to be like, you know, sometimes like 4 nights a week I'd be drinking, you know, like a whiskey or 2 to end the day. And it full transparency, full self-assessment, it did nothing. But maybe you could jump in there because your wording and the way you look at it is so informed by, like I said, I had the luxury. You had to battle out of that. Like how do you look at it now? Like looking back.
Yeah, I mean, short answer, it's straight poison. Like there is literally no benefit to alcohol. No matter how anybody in the past has ever tried to frame it as, you know, a glass of wine is good for your, you know, get some antioxidants or whatever. It's good for your blood pressure. What it's not. Like there's plenty of alternatives out there that's not alcohol. Literally, alcohol is a poison. Like that, it's made to alter your state of mind. And sure, there's other drugs that are beneficial to your health. You know, plant medicine and stuff like that, you know, that I'm a proponent of. But with alcohol, it's a depressant. It sends you into a state of depression, even though you get that slight tinge of a buzz and it feels euphoric and it feels great. If you think about it really hard, that slight tinge of a buzz, once we have that and it and the 10 or 15 minutes that it lasts, after that passes, we're constantly chasing that same feeling, right? And alcohol, it um, it inhibits your ability to think rationally. So in your mind, you're thinking, hey, if you know, 1 drink or 2 drinks or you know, 2 shots or whatever made me feel that good, made me feel that euphoria, that first buzz, that first drink buzz. Imagine what 6 are going to make me feel like. Imagine what a whole case of beer is going to make me feel like. And for some reason, our mind wraps around that idea. And as we get more and more intoxicated, we start thinking less and less rationally. And then that euphoric, happy feeling quickly turns dark and dismal, and people are against us. And then that's when you witness the fights and arguments and posturing and all of that stuff, because it also inflates your ego and it makes you feel like you can do things that you're not able to do. And you see that with people all the time. And so I take that step back and you think about, okay, um, the pro and con list. Like, let's make a pros and cons list. What are the pros of alcohol? Like, honestly, like the actual pros of alcohol, literally nothing. What are the cons? You know, depression, health, you know, liver, all that stuff. Like it outweighs itself. So it's a simple cost benefit analysis. And it's definitely, the juice isn't worth the squeeze on it. And I heard a quote a long time ago. I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody said alcohol literally does not do anything to help anybody reach their goals. Like it plays no part in helping you reach your goals, no matter what. Even if you consider it a stress reliever, if you consider it an icebreaker, you know, whatever, it literally does nothing. Once we quit drinking, once we got sober, the world got so much brighter. The experiences got so much richer. Like, I can remember our experiences. Like, it feels like, and that in itself, and I remember going to like one of the kids' ball games, you know, at the Boys and Girls Club, where a year prior we would be having our coffee cups full of vodka soda or whatever, you know, we'd be drinking at our kids' ball games. And I remember going there, and it almost, just by being fully present and experiencing that and being aware of everything that's happening around you, that in itself almost created this like euphoric feeling. That same buzz feeling you can get completely sober. It's incredible. And you know, to even build on that, I mean, you know it, you studied it, breath work and there's all kinds of
Yeah.
things, meditation, that you can get that same euphoric feeling without the detriment of your health and body
Yeah.
with that alcohol causes. So like
Yeah.
a lot of times people preface it with like, oh, I don't judge anybody that drinks or whatever. I do. I judge the shit out of you because
Yeah.
I know
I like
what
that.
you're doing to your body. I know that it's not good
Yeah.
for you. And I'll tell you, like,
That's
I'm
true.
not going to demonize you. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
you're a bad person for doing it, you know. And I've lately taken on more of a I guess more a more rational approach to it, and is talking to some friends that I wouldn't consider alcoholics, but definitely indulge more often than they should. They say, you know, as long as not even more often than they should, you know, the couple times a month drinkers, or the once every other month type of drinkers, you know,
Yep.
that don't drink till they're sloppy or whatever. And I was like, at that point, okay, you know, go ahead and like do it if you feel, you know, compelled to do so. And if you think about it, I can't I can't necessarily judge that because I indulge in pizza and ice cream periodically. I know it's bad for me. I know I'm going to feel like crap the next day. But in that regards, it's pretty much the same thing. Pizza and ice cream, it will have some cognitive effect on you, but it's not going to cause you to beat your wife or, you know, drive erratically. So it's a little bit different, but in the sense of like health wise, like,
Yeah.
okay, like if you're going to indulge in a drink or two, as long as you're doing it responsibly, then okay, whatever. You know, it was really cool. Megan pointed out, we went to Greg's River property this past Saturday and
Awesome.
hung out by a fire. It was amazing. Just like everybody's super positive. Everybody's just like great conversations, having a great time. And you know, there was some definitely some plant indulgence going around and
Yeah. Yeah.
some weed, but uh nobody drank alcohol. There was like out of like the
I, that's where you're
20
going.
people
Yeah.
there, nobody was drinking alcohol, and
Yeah.
it was awesome. Everybody was just having a really great time, having great conversations. And, yeah, it was just amazing. So it goes to show you, like, you can hang out, you can be in a
Yeah.
part of a group or a part of a conversation without having that buzz feeling. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, you really can. I think well, first of all, I'm trying to get better at like being intentional when someone shares truth. And I wanted to have you share what you're comfortable sharing with. And you just shared a lot of truth in your truth of being probably more upfront with that. It is true. Like if you take an inventory, you're numbing life. And maybe you are that person who can walk that line and numb life, but why would you even do that? Don't you want to experience life and don't you want to love life? Because you got one go at it. And I want to be conscious of that. And I want to remember the moments. And I've had some fun moments drinking too, you know, around a campfire or whatever.
yeah.
But I remember just that we drank. Like I don't remember the deep discussions. I definitely don't remember being conscious of other people and their emotions and energies being exchanged and love being exchanged. It was very like inward looking and then numbing that whole experience. And so I appreciate you sharing that because it's a huge truth and it hit home with me. Like there's nothing serving my life or serving what I value as a husband or a father that involved alcohol. And I know I'll have some friends listen to this, and I won't judge because like a lot of my friends are really responsible, I guess, with it. But I would just say that like you know you're numbing. I think you want to love life. So are those two conflicting with each other? Then careful because there's a couple of guys that like, and it's a big club, so I'm not like singling one guy out, but there was one guy that he went to the liquor store right before I think his son's like 5th birthday or something, and he bought like a fancy bottle of Jack Daniels and then like bought Coke, and he's like, my son's birthday is about to get weird, and I'm like, that's disgusting, dude. Like you're a dad, your son's turning 5, and that's how you're going to celebrate. Like you have a problem. Now you're not high functioning. You're not functioning because you're not fulfilling your function as a father. And if I don't think he'll listen to this because like, again, I don't really know him and that might sound judgy, but I'll tell you one thing, like what I'm a subject matter expert in is being a father who loves his sons, that is going to show up for his sons and realizes the contrast of what not showing up looks like. And that's unacceptable.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You're
And I dropped the F-bomb too of this podcast. I thought for sure.
Dude, I was being very careful.
You're like, oh, that was on the table the whole time. Now I got to hit that little E.
Yeah.
And tell all my Christian friends, like, I'm, careful. Like if the kids are in the car.
Right. No, it's good. I can turn it on and off. No, but so here to full transparency, that was me. Dude, my daughter's 3rd birthday was a huge party. It was we lived in a duplex, and our neighbors were super rad. Young couple, and the backyard's connected. I put a gate between the two. Like there was a wooden fence. I put a gate in there, and then it opened up into 13 acres of field and wilderness. So it ended up being like people brought their travel trailers over and all this stuff. My daughter's 3rd birthday, like we used it as an excuse to freaking party and rage till like 2 a.m. And yeah, looking back, so gross. Like, what are we doing? We're not celebrating her birthday. We're being a bunch of drunks doing stupid shit. Like, it's not cool. It wasn't, like, looking back, like, I don't even know how much fun we had. Like, maybe it was fun, but it wasn't celebrating my daughter, that was the whole purpose of the day. So this is the thing that going back, like alcohol, on the pro list, there's literally nothing written. On the con list, it makes everything. It just dims life. It just really puts a dim glow on life. It's kind of cool, man. When we first got sober about a year in, I remember I think we were at one of my kids' ball games or something like that, and I remember looking at Megan, and she was just like doing her thing. But I remember like she looked so carefree. She didn't care what anybody thought about her. She didn't care what anybody was saying or whatever. She was just doing her thing. And it was almost one of those cheesy Hallmark movie moments or whatever, where the two people are standing in the middle of everybody else. It's like a tornado. Everybody else is moving super fast, but you're in slow motion. And that was the thought to me was like, this is what life is. This is life. Like this is present.
Yeah.
This is being present in life and just enjoying life. And yeah, man, never lost that feeling, and it's been freaking incredible ever since.
Yeah, it jumps off the page, and it resonated in the words that your wife passed, because I said, hey, give me some funny stuff, and then I actually just said, give me whatever facts about Jay, and so she offered up the funny, and then got those are great words. Any husband, that having your wife speak, and I'm just looking 18 years of marriage, or almost 18.
Almost 18 years of marriage. Yeah, we're 20. What are we now? 23 together. This October will be 23 together.
Yeah, and that should be every guy's dream, that the woman they chose to spend their life with speaks those words on him, because that's empowering. And I think about that, when we talk about empowerment, you have grown into a great leader, and you care about changing culture, and you care about building community. Well, behind every great man, right, as they say, is a great woman that provides that empowerment for you to even believe that's possible. And so I actually heard one quote that I thought of you, and I want to and thank you again for sharing that background, and just like you up to this point, because I think the best is certainly yet to come. I'm not going to be discriminatory with age. Like I think it definitely goes to 60, as you mentioned, like peak out at 60. But the quote was from Bloomberg in May of 2025. It said alcohol consumption has gone into possibly permanent decline. So hell yeah. Other people are getting this. Other people are caring about healing themselves. And like we said, plant medicine, searching your soul, going into the woods, taking time away, not to get away, but to come back a better man or a better woman for your family, for your loved ones. I think we're about to hit a major shift as a culture. And I think removing alcohol as a mainstay, certainly, and I think acceptable is the next step. Because I think you have to live a very niche life to even, because like, why, when you did your marathon, training, why didn't you drink like the the night before a huge mileage run? Because you'd be wrecked, like because you had responsibilities, because you had purpose, like you had to fulfill those. And so that's the kind of life we need people leading in this country to turn things around. And if you're diminishing yourself, if you're making yourself incapable, I don't care. Like we always joke, when we were 20, like we could just tie one on and the next day we were high functioning. No, the next day we were freaking idiots.
Yeah,
We were in our
exactly.
20s. Yeah. But no, it's an awesome story. And I think that I always say, one, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that and kind of sharing that journey that covers so much of the person that you are and the man that you are now, that man that I'm going to become friends with and have the benefit from being around. And because it's been forged. Like, it's not that you just studied leadership books and you had everything come to you and the path was always clear and everybody at work was just asking you to do it, or your marriage and the things that you together endured just was always comfortable and it was always easy and it was always a clear path towards a positive trajectory. You've done it and it's been forged, and so that makes it more valuable. So there is like a part 2 to this story. I always say let's put a pin in this, but I do want to give you just a little bit of time. So you did leave the city last year, and then I think just like all this built on itself to like empower you and believe in yourself, and then also like a good kick in the nuts will give you the kick in the butt that you might need. So what are you doing now? And maybe like what are you doing now and outside of work too? Like what are you excited about, and what would you kind of want to get out there right now?
Yeah. Well, first, same to you, man. Like, you've been an incredible influence on me, and hearing your words each week, sometimes twice a week, it's just been incredible. Um, Very articulate. You always, again, like I said, you give fresh perspective on things. You cause us to think differently. You challenge our thinking, and seeing, you know, listening to the episode where you had your boys on here was super inspiring, and the relationship that you hold with your wife too, and how you support her, and how you speak so highly of her, like, and how you're raising your dogs, man. Like it's just you're doing
They
it all
haven't
right,
made.
man.
They haven't
You
made.
know,
Yeah, those are
uh,
the most spoiled labs in the United States of America, I guarantee you.
for sure, for sure. But yeah, so I really appreciate the kind words, and right back at you, brother. I can't thank you enough. Um, so yeah, left the city last year. Luckily, about 8 months prior to that, Megan and I had started a screen printing and embroidery business just on the side. Um, we thought it might have potential to eventually work into a full-time gig. But I had no intent to leave the city as fast as that happened at that time. Um, but we had it semi-established and working. So I had the equipment, and we had two-headed commercial embroidery machine and a small manual screen print set up. Um, and so lost my job and figured it was just a great opportunity to dive in and go at it full time. Initially, I started looking for other jobs and put some applications in. Had a couple of interviews that went well, and it was just kind of like I wasn't never officially offered a position at another organization, but it got close. And as it got closer, it was just kind of like, oh, shoot, how do I pull the plug on this? Because I don't want to go back to that life yet. Like, I don't feel like I need to. Um, I want to try this first and see and give it my 100% effort. And if it fails, cool, whatever. Like, at least I can say it wasn't for lack of effort. So I want it to be that first. And then so here we are. Like, and it's been up and down. Uh uh some Usually in the industry, January, February is kind of traditionally slow, and it was for us. So it got kind of bleak there for a little bit, and then March came around and it started slowly picking back up, and now we're just slammed. And I wouldn't say it's replaced my previous career's salary yet, but it's got a lot of potential too, and we're growing, we're building in structure. We're still pretty rudimentary as far as like our systems in place and structure in the business, like customer intake forms and stuff like that, and getting mock-ups, approvals, and quotes and stuff like that. So we're kind of clunking along in that regard, but I always say as soon as I have time, I'm going to focus on that. But the time
Yeah.
thing doesn't ever seem to be available. But man, as stressed out and as tight as money is, and as busy and no free time as I have right now, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because it's
Awesome.
like, with all of that, it's weird to say, but it's freedom. I feel more free than I have in the last 20 years. And it's just and that's motivation in itself to keep going, and to do to make it to make a full go at it, to give it that 110%, and make it work. Thousands of other people screen print and embroider across the country. And it's kind of funny, because I was listening to one of Greg's podcasts, and he said his dad told him one time that he went into the car business because everybody drives a car. Kind of one of those things. It's never going to go. It's always going to be a market for it, right?
Yep.
And I was like, hey, maybe I subliminally, like subconsciously, went into t-shirts, because everybody wears t-shirts. They're not going anywhere. Technology is advancing, and methodologies, printing methods are changing, and stuff like that. But ultimately, like, you're still going to need to wear a shirt out in public. So, why can't I be the one making it? So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I single-handedly make a dent in the t-shirt market profitability every year. So you need more of me. I am your niche customer. Ashley, so I think your podcast will drop in a couple of weeks, and then to coincide with what you just mentioned, that freedom, because we see it in you too, and don't diminish like the effort and the work, but you're working for yourself, and that's so admirable. So next week's episode, solo podcast, is going to be personal sovereignty and freedom. That idea of emancipation, and removing yourself from investing in something that's not investing in you. And so I know that I'll draw from a lot of your wisdom, because again, you're forging another path, Jay, and it's a path that, like, I think about it, and my wife and I are seriously talking about it, but we're still in that, like, when to jump stage. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this, maybe I need a kick in the nuts, but
no, man. Well, the thing is there, I don't think there ever is a perfect time. I don't think there ever is. There's probably better times than others, but with my situation, I didn't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
But I'm as much as I hate to admit it, like, I'm thankful for that it happened. The way it went down was shitty, but I'm thankful that it happened, because it did give me that kick in the butt to actually do it. And I had a partnership that went sour prior also, and one of my brothers, who, again, one of my role models and mentors, he said, look at it this way, because I was like pretty pissed at the dude, the way that went down, the way we split up. And he's like, but if it wasn't for him and you guys entering in that partnership, would you have ever started a business? Because I always talked about starting my own business. And I go like, no, you're right. Like, no, I probably wouldn't have. But, you got to be thankful. As shitty as the situations seem, they do pose an opportunity. They present an opportunity, and it's just how you view it, and it to, again, to credit you with giving different perspectives and challenging thinking. Same, like, you have a ton of value to offer. I think you said it in the chat in yesterday's meeting, how you've been helping some businesses with setting up some structure with ChatGPT and stuff like that. Like Dave, the consultant, I'd hire in a second. Like, I don't have any medical data to analyze, so I can't hire you in that regard. But, like, as far as, like, your knowledge and your way of thinking and business knowledge, like, 100%, like, you have so much value in that regard. So, as much self-doubt as we have, like, just look at your brothers and the people that care about you. They'll let you know. They'll affirm it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome being surrounded by amazing human beings that are trying to level up and trying to pour into others to do the same. I think that's Forge Ferocity in maybe another descriptive. Yeah, because it's not just all discipline and tough guy stuff at all. So thankful to be. Yeah, no, it is. It's like how to actually now survive yourself after trying to push that your entire life. So, well, again, I thank you so much, Jay. I thank you for your friendship, and I also just thank you for kind of I'll say it again, to nauseam for people who listen to the podcast. My friend Steve said, everybody's got a story and everybody deserves that story to be heard. And I'm glad that, something just went off in my mind. I'm like, I want to hear more of what Jay has to say. And I know that I'm also going to have the benefit of listening back to this, because that's a whole nother experience. This is conversation. We didn't map anything out. This was just organic from the get-go. And I love what you shared, because it reveals your character. It reveals not only your purpose in life, but your meaning in life. It reveals relationships. It tells so much. So I hope that you listen back on it and hear how rich your story is. And then I believe that I think the best is yet to come with you, man. So I'm excited to be along for that ride, and however I can help, which is one of the ways I can do that, is get me all your contact information for the business, and I'll get the links on the show notes, and we'll get that out there, because good t-shirts are important. We have a charity bike ride. I'm just going to say this because I know some of those guys might listen, but I don't know if they'll hang on for this long. We've had crappy t-shirts for the last probably 3 years. We had a great one 4 years back, like Heather style, really nice logo and everything, and everybody always wears that one. The last 3 years are like in the trash, like they're like shop rigs. So everybody drives a car and everybody wears a t-shirt. So
for sure. But we strive for quality, that's for sure. And the other thing that we strive to do is build relationships through t-shirts. So we want to make sure that the people get exactly what they're expecting, exactly what they're wanting. And we want to produce a t-shirt that they're going to want to wear forever, regardless of what it says on it. We want the t-shirt to fall apart before the print does. And it's fun. It's been a blast, but I appreciate that. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for letting me share. I didn't know where this was going to go either. It was kind of fun. But yeah, man, I love you, brother. I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to the future for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, we'll put a pin in this conversation, and we'll come back when you're like you got the t-shirt market cornered, or whatever the next is, because I don't want to pigeonhole you into t-shirts. So as always, thank you for joining me and Jay today and listening into the Stronghold Podcast.